There are many roguelike games out there, but Sifu does things differently with its martial arts gameplay and aging mechanic. Though there isn't really any game exactly like it, there are those that come close to it, whether it's in combat, themes, or something else entirely. So here's 8 games to play if you enjoyed Sifu and are looking for something similar. Starting off at number 8 is Jet Li's Rise to Honor. Although Rise to Honor is a PlayStation 2 game, it draws much similarities to Sifu. If there's ever an action game that deserves a sequel or a remaster, it would be Jet Li's Rise to Honor. For those that don't mind dusting off their old PS2 to play it, Rise to Honor holds up surprisingly well, and just like Sifu, it's considered a love letter to the kung fu action movie genre. The game has a unique cinematic presentation with well-choreographed cutscenes and animations. The gameplay revolves around beating foes with the flashiest moves possible, and its focus on hand-to-hand combat in scenarios that require the player to fight multiple enemies at once draws much similarity to Sifu's gameplay. The game opens with the familiar but classic on-foot chase sequence trope that Hong Kong action films love to include. Fans of Hong Kong movies and the legendary Jet Li will be pleased to know that he provides voice work and motion capture for the lead protagonist. And even though it is a single-player game, Rise to Honor harks back to the classic side-scrolling beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage and Double Dragon with its enemy types. So if you're looking for a game like Sifu, but with a little bit of cinematic presentation, then Rise to Honor is the game for you, as playing it will not only provide a fun thrill ride for players, but also give a good point of comparison for how far technology and combat mechanics have come over the years. Next over at number 7 is Sleeping Dogs. This is another game which shares much similarities to Sifu. In this game, you get to play as Wei Shen, a Chinese-American police officer trying to get into a criminal organization known as the Sun On Yi Triad. The character must build trust with the criminals in the organization and get more information on his ongoing case while also avoiding being killed. Like other open-world titles, Sleeping Dogs offers plenty of activities outside the main story, such as street racing, karaoke, fight clubs, and more. It also has 2 DLC expansions and a martial arts-inspired film. The DLC and base game feature enough content to satisfy both Hong Kong movie fans and Sifu fans. Because it is an open-world game, there are no limits. The game is all yours to explore. The game offers a wide variety of Kung Fu master fighting styles which improve in levels, together with your powers and skills. This increase gives you the ability to perform new moves on opponents. At the initial level, you will be bound to perform specific tasks only, but as you proceed, the world will be open for you to roam around, run, swim, jump over buildings, have street fights, and explore new places. If you liked Sifu, then you'll definitely enjoy Sleeping Dogs as it offers martial arts fans a great fighting experience plus a tournament in-game competition inspired by Bruce Lee's iconic movie Enter the Dragon. Moving on to number 6 is Midnight Fight Express. Midnight Fight Express is an isometric beat-em-up game developed by a solo developer, Jacob Zwinell. In the game, you get to play as a former street thug turned vigilante. As you fight the underworld and its many denizens, you're accompanied by a drone that acts as the narrator and guide through your evening of ultra-violence. Fighting is as fluid as Sifu and very fun. You can use a variety of weapons and objects around the levels, either by kicking them or picking them up and using them as bludgeons against your enemies. To enhance your fighting ability, you can use the skill points you gain through experience to learn new moves, extend combos, and customize the fighting to your preference. Not only is the combat fun in Midnight Fight Express, but where the action takes place is impressive too. Not satisfied with merely having you beat up low-life thugs in warehouses and office buildings, the game also lets you fight them across water and on the back of trains in locations undoubtedly inspired by action movies. The game doesn't do too many things uniquely, but the things it does so much well. So if you're itching for a great beat-em-up game which shares much similarities to Sifu, then Midnight Fight Express delivers exactly that. Next on to number 5 is Clash Artifacts of Chaos. Artifacts of Chaos is Ace Team's third entry in the fighting game series Xenoclash, which first punched its way onto Xbox consoles back in 2009. In this new game, you return to the fantasy world of Xenozoic as Pseudo, a martial artist suddenly tasked with protecting some curryball-looking puffball named Boy. The game plays as a third-person brawler that occasionally switches to first-person. The game is similar to Sifu in that it lets you learn a variety of martial arts stances such as lightning that focuses on swifter strikes or boxing that emphasizes powerful hits. When the combat works, it's stylish and satisfying as you punch enemies right in their ugly faces. You can also do some cool fighting game shift, including dodge cancelling combos to reset your animations or performing special moves that interrupt your opponent's attacks. These moments, when you're strafing your enemy and monitoring their movements for the right time to get into some blows, is absolutely amazing, especially when you send their corpse careening off a mountainside like a ragdoll. It's hilariously brutal, making for a challenging yet gratifying combat experience that sees you battling humongous troll-like eyesores and other unspeakable horrors. Next over at number 4 is On Guard. Although it's not a martial arts game, On Guard is a really fun action game full of heart. The game rewards skillful gameplay and a better mastery of its mechanics. The beautiful presentation, varied levels, excellent pacing, and challenging group fights add up to a solid adventure worth taking. Its world and combat encounters feel more substantial, with a stylish swordplay that makes a great first impression. In Sifu, you are required to work with creative new abilities that encourage you to expand your combat mastery. But with On Guard, you unlock a handful of meter attacks as you go through the campaign. The games share much similarities in that they all get more challenging as you go through different levels, but at the same time, they give you plenty of clues on how to outwit your opponents. When playing On Guard, players are able to use objects in the environment, such as barrels, crates, tables, or other items, to their advantage during combat. For example, you can kick enemies into objects like weapon racks, which then fall on top of them, or kick tables and racks towards them, or even kick them off of ledges and into bodies of water. By doing this, the game adds depth to its combat mechanics and provides opportunities for diverse tactical approaches. So, get yourself a copy of On Guard if you're looking for a game that implements the combat of Sifu, but with plenty of fencing attacks mapped to it. Now next over at number 3 is Mad Max. Combat is an inseparable part of Mad Max. In almost every place of the game world, you will meet at least some few enemies. Despite the fact that you have weapons, the battle is usually fought with fists, mostly because of the limited amount of ammunition. It has much similarities to Sifu, in that it possesses fighting abilities which you will develop as you progress in the game. The types of enemies are varied as well. However, their attacks are predictable, which makes them easy to learn. Predicting next attacks, successful blocks, dodges, and counterattacks are the key to winning each combat with large numbers of enemies. Like Sifu, you're always likely to face multiple enemies, and most of their attacks are signalized with an icon informing you whether they can be blocked or if you must perform a dodge. Despite the fact that hits are varied, those two rules are important during the whole game. When there aren't many enemies nearby, you can allow yourself to perform longer combos. However, if you are surrounded, that would end with receiving a hit at your back. So if you're looking for a game like Sifu, but with a defensive approach which allows you to quickly weaken enemies and eliminate them, then try Mad Max. Now moving on to number 2 is Absolver. Absolver is a single and multiplayer action game based on the martial arts developed by Sloclap, who are the same developers of Sifu. Both games are based on becoming a kung fu master by acquiring new skills and combat styles throughout the journey. There are 3 types of modes to choose from: single, cooperative, and competitive. You will be fighting with other players as well as computer-controlled characters. There is a lot to explore in this game. The character controlled by you is called a prospect who travels in Adal's fictional land and fights with other players to prove his worthiness to become a part of Absolver peacekeepers. You will face so many rivals throughout this journey. As soon as you knock them out, you will unlock more skills, weapons, armor, and equipment. The game contains several modes in which you can fight alongside other players, against them, or 1 versus 1 matches. There are 4 fighting stances for a player. With each stance, there are different move sets assigned. The player can add and remove cards, which are obtained with the passing of time, into their combat deck to customize their strategies and make them unprecedented and unpredictable. With all that said, if you're looking for a game from the creators of Sifu, which is also built on martial arts, but with a unique setting, then try Absolver. Now down to number 1 is Judgment. As a sister series to the Yakuza franchise, Judgment and its sequel, Lost Judgment, is set in the same universe. Despite being set in the streets of Tokyo, its combat system uses kung fu martial arts styles like Crane, Tiger, and Snake. Once again, it takes inspiration from classic arcade beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage. However, the Judgment series is arguably the best real-time fighting system the studio has produced. Moreover, fans that enjoyed the detective aspect of Sifu will love stepping into the shoes of private detective Takayuki Yagami as he solves crimes and beats up bad guys on the streets. If you prefer Sifu's modern setting, instead of going back too far into the past, the Judgment series is the best for you. And while the game doesn't necessarily focus on combat, as there's an intricate story you have to get through to keep going, the plot is so full of intrigue and mystery that it's actually one of the best things about the game. You have 2 fighting styles to switch between in Judgment, along with a host of unlockable abilities and special cinematic actions that work wonders against enemies. So grab yourself a copy of the Judgment series, as its story, brutal combat and speed will please all fans of Kung Fu martial arts and Sifu in general.